Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin.
Lyndon Merrick stared at her laptop screen in her Seattle penthouse, the numbers blurring together as memories crashed through her focus. 34 years old, and she could still hear her mother's voice cutting through the Denver winter air. Why can't you be more like Cordelia? She knows how to make people happy. The childhood home had been a battlefield disguised as suburban comfort. 3 golden children and 1 scapegoat. Cordelia, now 38, had been prom queen and married into old money. Rhett, 36, could charm anyone into believing his half-baked business ideas were revolutionary. Mara, 33, played the victim so well that everyone rushed to rescue her from problems she created. Then there was Lyndon, the one who brought home straight A's and got lectures about trying too hard. The one who read books while her siblings threw parties. The one who asked questions that made adults uncomfortable. "You're just different, honey," Joanne would say, the word different dripping with disappointment. Their father had been the only buffer, but even he couldn't change the family dynamic. When he died of a heart attack during Lyndon's senior year, 17-year-old grief had frozen her face into stone during the funeral. While her siblings sobbed dramatically, Lyndon sat rigid in the front pew, unable to cry in front of people who had spent years making her feel worthless. She didn't even love him. Cordelia had whispered to Rhett, loud enough for everyone to hear. Look at her. Nothing. The blame landed on Lyndon like it always did. She was selfish. Cold. Broken. AT-18. She left Denver with 2 suitcases and a checking account containing $300. No family support. No safety net. Just burning determination to prove them all wrong. 16 years later, Lyndon had built an empire. Her wellness brand served thousands of women who, like her, had to rebuild themselves from scratch. Skincare that worked. Fitness programs that respected real bodies. Mental health resources for survivors of family trauma none of them knew. Her family had no idea she owned a penthouse in Seattle or that her company was worth millions. To them, she remained the weird sister who disappeared. The first exclusion came when she was 26. A group text arrived on a Tuesday morning. Cord's wedding pics. Wish you all could have been there. Lyndon stared at the photos of Cordelia's grand Georgia wedding. Magnolia trees and old money. A reception that probably cost more than most people's cars. She had never received an invitation. It was family only, Cordelia explained later when Lyndon called. You understand. But Rhett had been there. Mara had been there. Cousins from 3 states away had been there. The second strike came 3 years later. Rhett's mountain cabin wedding in Aspen appeared on her Facebook feed like a knife to the gut. Her brother, standing in front of snow-capped peaks, surrounded by everyone except her. This time, she didn't call. She unfriended him instead. The third and final blow came just last week. Marlo, her cousin, and the only family member who still spoke to her, had called with an apology in her voice. Lyndon, honey, I should have told you sooner. Mara got married last Saturday. Lyndon had been reviewing quarterly reports when the call came. The numbers on her screen seemed to mock her as Marlo continued. She said you were too toxic to invite, said it would ruin her special day. Toxic, the word her siblings used whenever Lyndon refused to play their games or accept their treatment. I'm sorry I didn't warn you, Marlo continued. I thought maybe she'd change her mind. That night, Lyndon stood in her penthouse kitchen, a glass of wine in her hand, looking out at the Seattle skyline. The city sparkled below her like scattered diamonds. She had built this life from nothing, brick by brick, success by success. 3 weddings, 3 deliberate exclusions, 3 messages that she would never belong. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rhett in the family group chat. Great seeing everyone at Mara's wedding. Family is everything. The laugh that escaped her throat was sharp and bitter. Family. They wouldn't know real family if it slapped them across their entitled faces. She walked to her home office and pulled out a leather-bound notebook she kept in her desk drawer. On the cover, in gold lettering, were the words, "The Firestarter's Guide." She had bought it years ago as a joke, but tonight it felt prophetic. Lyndon opened to a blank page and wrote, "Let them rot in their little crowns. I'm going to show them how you build an empire alone." She picked up her phone and scrolled to Noah's contact. Noah Vale, 39, speech therapist, the kindest man she had ever known. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, beautiful. Working late again." "Noah," she said, her voice steady with newfound purpose. "How do you feel about getting married?" His laugh was warm and surprised. "Are you proposing to me over the phone?" "Maybe I am." "Then yes. Obviously yes. But can we talk about this properly when I get home tomorrow?" After she hung up, Lyndon opened her laptop and began typing. She had a wedding to plan. Not just any wedding. The wedding that would make every society page, every gossip blog, every person who had ever dismissed her take notice. They wanted to exclude her? Fine. She would throw herself a celebration so magnificent that their pathetic little ceremonies would look like backyard barbecues in comparison. 3 weeks later, Noah sat across from Lyndon in their favorite Seattle cafe, still processing her proposal story. He was exactly what her family would hate: humble, emotionally intelligent, and completely unimpressed by material wealth. "So you want to plan our wedding as revenge against your siblings?" he asked, stirring his coffee slowly. "I want to plan our wedding as a celebration of everything we've built together," Lyndon corrected. "The fact that it will make them insane is just a bonus." Noah studied her face. He had learned to read her expressions over their 2 years together, recognizing the steel beneath her calm exterior. "What did you have in mind?" Lyndon pulled out her tablet and showed him photos of oceanfront venues in Oregon. "I want something they could never afford. Something that will make their weddings look like church basement receptions." "Lyndon." Noah reached across the table and took her hand. "I love you. I'll marry you anywhere. But I need to know this is about us, not just about them." She looked at their joined hands. Noah's fingers were gentle, steady. He had spent years helping children find their voices, and somehow he had helped her find hers too. "It's about us," she said finally. "It's about celebrating what we built from nothing. They threw me away, and look what I became. We deserve to celebrate that. Then let's throw the wedding of the century." 2 days later, they sat in the office of Cicely Penn, Seattle's most exclusive event planner. Cicely was exactly what Lyndon expected. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, and a client list that read like Forbes magazine. "Budget?" Cicely asked, pen poised over her notepad. "Whatever it takes," Lyndon replied. "I want oceanfront venue, live orchestra, gourmet dining for 200 guests. I want it perfect. Family list. Burn it. No blood will spill on this guest list." Cicely's eyebrows lifted slightly, but she made a note. "Theme: deserved celebration. This wedding is for people who believed in us when no one else would." Over the following weeks, Lyndon crafted her guest list like a weapon. Foster families who had shown her kindness, mentors from college, ex-bosses who had promoted her, kids she mentored through local charities, people who had seen her worth when her own family couldn't. "What about celebrity guests?" Cicely asked during one of their planning sessions. Noah smiled from his corner of the office. "I have a client, actor, A-list. He owes me a favor for helping his daughter with her speech impediment." "Perfect," Lyndon said. "Get him." The Oregon coastline venue was everything Lyndon had dreamed. Private estate, dramatic cliffs, ocean views that stretched to the horizon. The kind of place that required connections and serious money to book. "The deposit alone is more than most people's entire wedding budget," Cicely mentioned as they toured the grounds. "Good," Lyndon replied, envisioning her siblings' faces when they saw the photos. Back in her Seattle office, Lyndon opened her laptop and began composing the message that would change everything. She had commissioned a photographer to take professional shots of her engagement ring, a custom design that had cost more than her first car. The photo was perfect, her hand positioned elegantly against black velvet, the diamond catching light like captured fire. Below it, she typed, "No seat reserved. Just like yours." She ordered 3 small white boxes from Tiffany, not because she was being generous, but because the Tiffany name would make them open the boxes immediately. Each one contained the photo and the message that Cordelia's box went to her Georgia mansion, Rhett's to his Denver condo, Mara's to whatever address Marlowe could provide. Then she waited. The first response came within hours. Cordelia called Marlowe, who called Lyndon immediately. "She's losing her mind," Marlowe reported, barely containing her laughter. She spent 20 minutes trying to Google Noah online. Found nothing. "Because he's not desperate for attention," Lyndon replied. "What did she say exactly?" "That you're probably marrying some loser just to spite her. That there's no way you can afford anything decent." Lyndon smiled as she looked around her penthouse. Let Cordelia keep thinking that. The family group chat exploded the next day. Rhett had posted, "What's she gonna do, host it at a Whole Foods?" Several laughing emojis followed from various cousins and family friends. Mara said nothing publicly, but Marlowe reported that she had started stalking Lyndon's carefully curated Instagram account. Every photo, every story, analyzed for clues about Lyndon's real financial situation. "She's scared," Marlowe told Lyndon over coffee. "I can see it in her face. She's wondering what you've been doing all these years." "Good," Lyndon replied. "She should be scared." Their mother, Joanne, finally called Marlowe directly. "Why is she doing this?" Joanne demanded. "Why is she trying to hurt the family?" "You should ask yourself that question," Marlowe had replied coldly before hanging up. Meanwhile, Lyndon kept building. She commissioned an original song from a Grammy-winning composer. She designed custom gift boxes for every guest, filled with products from her company. She booked a private jet to bring her Seattle friends to Oregon. Every detail was chosen to send a message. This is what success looks like. This is what happens when you bet on yourself instead of waiting for family approval. Noah watched her work with a mixture of admiration and concern. "Are you sure you're not letting them win by making this about them?" he asked one evening as she approved floral arrangements that cost more than his monthly rent. "I'm not making this about them," Lyndon replied, showing him the guest list. "Look at these names. Every person on this list saw my worth when my family couldn't. This celebration is for them. For us. The fact that it will destroy my siblings' egos is just the universe balancing the scales." Noah pulled her close. "As long as you remember why we're really doing this. To celebrate the fact that the best revenge isn't forgiveness," Lyndon said, her voice steady with conviction. "It's triumph." The Oregon coastline stretched endlessly beyond the white silk canopy, waves crashing against rocks hundreds of feet below. Lyndon stood at the edge of the cliffside venue, watching her guests arrive. 200 people who had believed in her journey when no one else would. The wedding was exactly what she had envisioned. All-white dress code that made everyone look elegant against the dramatic landscape. A famous poet opened the ceremony with words about rising from ashes. No bridesmaids, no groomsmen, just Lyndon and Noah promising themselves to each other and to the family they had chosen. She wore a custom gown that hugged every curve she had earned through years of disciplined self-care. Her hair caught the ocean breeze as she walked herself down the aisle. No father to give her away because she belonged to herself. Noah waited at the altar in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, his eyes bright with tears of joy. When she reached him, he whispered, "You look like you could conquer the world." "I already did," she whispered back. His vows were heartfelt and brief, exactly like him. He spoke about finding someone who made him want to be braver, kinder, more honest with himself. When Lyndon's turn came, her voice carried across the entire venue. "This is not a union built from family legacy. she began, her eyes finding Noah's and holding them. "It's built from the ashes of betrayal. And still I bloom. We bloom. Together, we've created something they said was impossible. A love built on truth instead of obligation, respect instead of fear, and choice instead of circumstance." The applause was thunderous. Her mentor from college wiped away tears. The teenagers she counseled cheered from their seats. Even the A-list actor Noah had invited seemed moved by her words. After the ceremony, dinner was served on tables that seemed to float above the ocean. The orchestra played as the sun painted the sky in shades of gold and pink. During dessert, the famous director who had become Noah's client stood to give a toast. "I've worked with many people in my career," he announced, "but few have impressed me as much as Linden Merrick, which is why I'm thrilled to announce that she will be the face of our new wellness campaign for survivors of family trauma. Her story deserves to be heard." The crowd erupted. Cameras flashed. Linden felt the moment crystallize into something that would follow her family forever. As the reception moved into the lounge area, Marlo appeared at Linden's elbow. Her cousin's face was tight with worry. "They're outside," she whispered. "All three." Linden felt Noah's hand find hers, steady and warm. "What do you want to do?" Through the venue's windows, she could see them at the security gates. Cordelia in an expensive dress that somehow looked cheap next to the elegance of Linden's chosen family. Rhett fidgeting with his collar like a child in church clothes. Mara trying to look through the gates at the celebration she had declared herself too good to attend. Paparazzi surrounded them, drawn by the rumors of celebrity guests and high-profile drama. Camera flashes lit up their faces as they stood outside looking in. Linden reached for the ivory silk cape that had been designed to complement her reception dress. It flowed behind her as she walked toward the gates, Noah and Marlo flanking her like a chosen court. "You're seriously doing this?" Cordelia called out as Linden approached. Her voice carried the same entitled whine it had held since childhood. "I learned from the best," Linden replied, her voice carrying easily across the space between them. "We're family," Rhett tried, his charm falling flat against the security barrier. "This is ridiculous." "Family," Linden repeated, savoring the word. "You mean the people who exclude you from major life events? Who call you toxic for setting boundaries? Who treat you like you're invisible until you become too visible to ignore?" Mara stepped forward, tears threatening to spill down her cheeks. "We made mistakes, but this is cruel." "Cruel is spending 16 years wondering what you did wrong," Linden replied. "Cruel is finding out your sister got married from a cousin because you weren't worth a phone call. This isn't cruelty. This is consequence." She turned to the security team. "Please escort them off the property." As the gates closed and her siblings were led away by security, camera flashes exploded around them. The image would be everywhere by morning. 3 people in formal were being denied entrance to their sister's wedding. The same sister they had written off years ago. The crowd inside erupted in cheers when Linden returned. Her chosen family had witnessed her final victory. 3 days later, Linden sat across from a journalist in her Seattle penthouse. The interview had been scheduled before the wedding drama, but now it carried extra weight. "Tell us about Project Boundaries," the journalist prompted. "It's a grant program for individuals rebuilding after toxic family systems," Linden explained. "We provide financial support, therapy resources, and mentorship for people who have been scapegoated or excluded by their families of origin. The funding is significant, 7 figures annually. Success means nothing if you don't use it to help others climb the same mountain you did." The journalist leaned forward. "Your siblings were turned away from your wedding. Do you have any regrets?" Linden's smile was sharp as cut glass. "I have regrets about the years I spent trying to earn love from people incapable of giving it. I have regrets about the energy I wasted hoping they would change. I have no regrets about choosing myself and my real family over people who treated me like I was disposable. Some might say this was an act of revenge. Some might be right, but revenge and justice aren't always different things. They taught me that actions have consequences. I'm simply a very good student. When the interview was published, it named Cordelia, Rhett, and Mara directly, not with malice, but as proof that family isn't defined by blood. The article went viral within hours. 2 weeks later, an envelope arrived from Lyndon's lawyer. Inside was a deed to the Denver family home. Joanne had defaulted on property taxes, and the house had gone to auction. Lyndon's company had bought it through a shell corporation. She spread the deed across her desk and picked up a tube of red lipstick. Across the final page, she wrote in bold letters, "Not your home anymore. Not your story anymore." Then she called a demolition company. The house, where she had been made to feel small, would become a community center for at-risk youth, a place where children would be celebrated for their differences instead of punished for them. Noah found her there that evening, staring out at the Seattle skyline with satisfaction written across her face. "How does it feel?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Like justice," she replied. "Like everything I built was worth it." Outside their window, the city sparkled with promise. Lyndon had learned the most important lesson of her life. The best revenge isn't forgiveness. It's becoming so successful that your enemy's opinions become irrelevant. She had built an empire from ashes, surrounded herself with people who valued her worth, and married a man who saw her heart. Meanwhile, her siblings remained exactly what they had always been. Small people in an increasingly small world. The phoenix had risen. The fire they had lit to destroy her had only made her stronger.